Up, we'll be taking questions here in the room, on social media using hashtag AskNASA. And if you're joining us on our phone line, go ahead and press *1 to answer our question queue, or *2 to kind of lower your virtual hand if your question's already been asked. I've got my social media questions here, so keep your Ask NASA questions coming at any time. So we're here to talk about this awesome crew, Crew-7, and of course Laurel Hera joining us today as well. Crew-7 is launching August 17th at 5:56 a.m. Central Time, 6:56 a.m. Eastern, 3 minutes after sunrise. And they'll arrive at the space station on August 18th, about 20 hours after their launch. And Laurel's launch will be September 15th at 10:44 a.m. Central Time. We're here to talk about their mission before they go up to space. We have a lot of exciting things happening, including Andreas becoming a station commander in late September, taking over from Sergei Prokopyev. I'm actually going to toss over to Andy for some opening remarks.
Thank you, and welcome to everyone to this Expedition 70, Crew-7 and Soyuz press conference. We've got 5 out of 7 Expedition 70 crew members. We are incredibly excited to be in the final stages, very, very final stages for Crew-7. We have a couple days to go before we enter crew rest and then quarantine prior to our launch on August 17th. And then, of course, about a month after we launch, we look forward to the arrival of Laurel and her 2 crewmates to the International Space Station and the start of Expedition 70, which will be a very exciting and very busy increment on board the space station. We have a lot of exciting scientific research and technology development projects that we look forward to for the 6 months, close to 6 months that we will be on board the space station. And we look forward to taking your questions today.
Thank you, Andreas. Let's get to those questions. So why don't we start here on the phone with Marcia Dunn. Marcia, if you're speaking, you might be on mute.
Hello?
We hear you. Marcia? That's okay. Why don't we go to our next question?
Can you hear? Can you hear now?
Yes, I can.
Okay, sorry. Yes, thanks for taking my question. I'd like to just ask the crew members who are going to be making their first flights to space. Tell me about what led to this, how excited you are, and what you're looking forward to about the space flight. Anything that can just give us a look into your mind and your hearts as you're about to go off on this endeavor. Thank you.
You want to go?
Yeah, sure. I'll start off with that and just share that probably the thing that I'm definitely most excited about actually launching and getting to space flight is first just looking back and seeing the Earth from orbit. You see it in all these pictures, but actually seeing it in real person, I think, will just be a pretty incredible experience. And then I'm also looking forward to learning how to fly. So learning how to live and work in microgravity, just how to do all the daily tasks, sleeping and eating and showering, and then using tools and equipment to do all of the research that we're going to be doing. And then lastly, I'm looking forward to spending time with these guys on orbit and having dinners together and working together and just sharing that adventure.
I think for me, this is something I've wanted to do for as long as I can remember. And so I know recently we've been so busy, sometimes I forget we're actually about to launch to space, and just the last couple of days it's really hit me. Similar to Laurel, one of the things I'm most excited about is looking back at our beautiful planet. Everyone I've talked to who has flown already has said that was kind of a life-changing perspective to see our Earth in that way. And also to floating around in space, it seems really fun. We've done flights where we get to do that for half a minute or so, but to live like that for about half a year, I think will be incredible.
Yeah, likewise to that, I can join the same feelings. Like, I want to experience weightlessness, look at the planet Earth, from above. It hasn't hit me yet, which I'm a bit surprised. I know with my brain that we are going to space, but the thing is that like the training has been so intense and so hard that like it is not psychologically hitting me yet. I'm waiting for that moment. Maybe it happens when we see the rocket or we walk towards the rocket. I'm really looking forward to that. And also I'm looking forward to coping with all the tasks. You know, this is a very interesting profession. You are preparing for something which you haven't tried yet, and you really want to do it well, but you don't know what it will be. So I'm really looking forward to the adventure, and I'm really excited and honored to do that with these guys.
Thank you, Marcia, for your question. Let's now go to Robert Perlman with Collect Space.
Thank you. For the members of Crew, excuse me, for the members of Crew-7, though this is not the first time, it's still pretty much a rarity to have 4 countries represented on one crew launching together. How has been your experience coming together as a crew and working as one unit?
It's been incredible. This was something when I first found out I was flying on Crew-7, I knew it was a possibility for this to be an all-international crew. It was something I was really excited about, and each one of us have talked. It's something that is very special and important to each of us to just represent what we can do when we work together in harmony. And it's one of the things I think we're most proud of is what we represent by being an all-international crew.
It's a great answer. Now we'll go to Clis Lazarino with the Kansas Alumni Magazine.
Hi, thanks for taking my call. Hi, Laurel calling from Lawrence. Everyone here is very excited about your upcoming flight. I saw on one of your few social media posts a comment from last February. You were back in Star City, and you commented that you were so excited to be back there. Can you talk about that training that you've undergone in Star City that made it so enjoyable for you, and just comment on the training that you've undergone so far that leads you to this point? Thank you very much.
Thank you, and that's exciting to hear from you all the way in Lawrence. Yeah, so I started my training in Star City in summer of 2021, and there we start with Soyuz systems. So we study all the different systems of the vehicle, and that moves progressively into more and more complex sims with the crew, where we are in the simulator working through all of the procedures that we will do during launch and docking, and then eventually descent and landing. And so those are very fun simulations because they're challenging. They throw a lot of different failures at us, and we get to learn how to work through the procedures and work together as a crew. So that's been particularly enjoyable. And then, of course, we also learn all of the space station systems. And we do training that's kind of similar to the training that we do here in the U.S. And also in Germany with ESA and in Japan.
So speaking of hometowns, I have a question on Twitter for Jasmine. Matt wants to know, as a native Long Islander, what ways are you planning on engaging with those here while you're in orbit?
Yeah, so a couple months ago, I actually went back home to Long Island and spoke to several of the students there from my hometown, from the elementary school all the way to the high school. And we actually have an aviation museum there, the Cradle of Aviation Museum. I went there and spoke to a lot of students there as well. And I'm hoping to continue that while I'm on orbit, meeting with those same students and talking to them from space this time.
We'll go back to questions on the phone with Lenka White with Sputnik News.
Thank you very much to all of you, and I wish you good luck. Please, I would like to ask you if each of you could name your favorite experiment you are looking forward to the most. Thank you.
Favorite experiment?
So I have a couple experiments. I don't know if they're my favorites, but it's certainly 2 experiments that I'm very much looking forward to because they both involve sitting in Cupola, our window module, and taking photos out of Cupola. And anytime you get to spend time, even working in Cupola is a great time because it really is an incredible place to look down at our beautiful planet, but also out into space. And so one of the experiments involves taking photos of giant lightning strikes, what we call blue jets and red sprites. These are a special type of lightning that shoot upwards from the top of thunderclouds up towards space. It's a continuation of an experiment I did on my first mission in 2015, where I filmed a blue jet pulsating in the upper atmosphere. And so there's a continuation of that. And then there's a second experiment to take pictures of the moon in order to measure Earth's albedo, so the amount of sunlight that the Earth reflects into space, which is an important parameter when we talk about modeling Earth's climate. So it's certainly two experiments that I look forward to, especially because they take place in cupola.
No, one that I'm really excited about, which we may get to do, some members of our crew may get to do while we're up there, is actually conducting science during a spacewalk and swabbing the outside of stations for a microorganisms spacewalk, swabbing outside of different vents and seeing is there any life that has persisted on the outside of the space station. So I think that will be really cool.
Speaking about those one or two experiments, one of the most exciting to me is the quail egg experiment. That's an experiment in which we are carrying a lot of quail eggs, around 30 of them, and we have a special incubator which has two chambers. In one, you have artificial G-force, another one is just a shelf, and every day you have to take care of those eggs, seeing that the conditions are fine, and each day you take one from each and send them to Earth. You fix them first, and then you send them to Earth, and that will tell us how it develops in space, and we'll be able to distinguish what are the effects of zero-G and radiation versus different conditions for quail eggs and development. And that's interesting because in the next generations of human space flights, we need protein, and quails are a good source of protein, so we might know how they develop in space and whether we can do that or not. That's an exciting thing in terms of science, and exciting experiment in terms of the way to conduct it. I think it's the hardest for me is ultrasound examination of internal organs. That's the one which took so much time training. Like me and Nikolai were trained, and Oleg as well, to do ultrasound to each other, and we'll do it on the first week, then after 2 months, and then we'll do it after we return home. And we'll see how our internal organs are changing throughout the long duration space flight.
Go ahead.
Okay, let me introduce a protein crystallization experiment under zero gravity. Under zero gravity, we can get better quality protein crystals. After bringing it back to Earth and analyzing it, we can know the 3D detailed structure of the protein crystals. And the reaction site of a protein is just like a keyhole. And using a computer, you can find a key that best fits the keyhole, which is a candidate for new drug. So by doing this experiment, we can enhance the development of new drugs. I'm very excited.
And one experiment that I'm really excited about, because I'll be very involved in it, because I actually am the experiment, is called CIPHER. And that is a relatively new medical research experiment that takes 14 different studies covering everything from bone and joint health to cognitive performance. So how I learn to how my brain learns to live and adapt in a 3D environment versus usual 2D environment. And so that's been super interesting. It's very new. All of the different experiments will share the data, and so hopefully from that kind of experiment, because they're also looking at astronauts throughout different mission durations from 3 or 6 month durations all the way up to 1-year missions, we'll be learning how the human body adapts to the microgravity environment, and that will help inform our future missions to the moon and beyond.
We'll take a question on the phone line now from Will Robinson-Smith of Spaceflight Now.
Yes, hi. Thank you for taking the time to take our questions today. If we can go back down the line, what's a personal item that you're looking forward to bringing on station with you, and why did you choose that one? Thanks.
personal
Was there a
items which we
second
plan-
part to that question? Did it get cut off, or was it just what's our favorite personal item we're going to bring?
What personal item you'll be bringing? Will Robinson Smith, was there a second part to your question?
Just, how did you happen to choose that item, given that, you're limited on what you can bring up with you?
I mean, I could start. I'm not bringing a ton of personal items. But I am bringing photos of friends and family. So I'm looking forward to just having those to be able to look at those and hang them up at my crew quarters and also take photos of them in the cupola.
I'm just struggling to pick one thing to talk about, but I'll go with I'm bringing 2 stuffed animals for my twin girls, dragon stuffed animals. They're the same dragon, but slightly different colors for each of them. And I introduced them to these dragons before, and then I said, okay, now we got to box them up to pack them for space. And so I'm looking forward to showing them the dragons floating around in space.
I have many items, of course, I think almost all of us have their friends and family photos, but I also have my son's first toy, which I want to bring to space and then return to him as a present. That's a big thing for me, to bring it, make photos, and then return it back for us to keep it as a family item.
These are all so sweet.
I don't know if it qualifies as a personal item, but my Crew-7 colleagues let me pick our zero-G indicator. So traditionally, we always have some kind of toy or stuffed animal hanging from the hatch in the capsule to indicate the moment that we reach zero-G and it begins to float in weightlessness. And
You can't tell them what it is yet, right?
Oh, I can't.
It's a surprise.
It's a surprise. Okay. Well, so that's probably, I'll have to tell you the story and what it is at a later time.
But Andreas, did you pick the item?
I did. I got to pick the item together with my children. I have 3 children, and so it's related to them. But I'll have to keep it a surprise a little bit longer.
Well, in addition to the photos of families and friends, I'm bringing some photos of from the students of the schools that I graduated from, and I'm looking forward to taking photos with them.
Oh, wow. Awesome. Now we'll go to Bill Harwood with CBS News.
Hey, thanks very much. This is a question for Laurel, if I can. Can you talk a little bit about, I guess you're launching with one crew and coming down with another. So Oleg and Nikolai are going to stay up for a full year, I guess. And can you talk about how that might have affected training in any way with you, if it has at all, and just what their attitude is going into a flight like that? Thanks.
Yeah, that hasn't impacted our training, and that's still going through the process, the approval process. So that hasn't impacted us at all.
Right, not completely confirmed.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thanks.
I'm going to try on this name. Please excuse me. Yuichiro from Kyoto News.
Hi, thank you for taking my question. My question is to Furukawa-san. In coming years, more and more people will go to space, but I think the risk of the space trip on the human health or body is not fully understood. So as a medical doctor, how do you think you can contribute to the enhancement of knowledge through this mission and beyond? Would you please specify 1 or 2 topics you are focusing on? Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the question. As Laurel discussed, I am also a subject for the Cypher experiment, and it is a big 14 research combination of the 14 research project, and it is for the upcoming long duration human stay in space. And I will be giving kind of data before, during, and post-flight for blood, urine, PC-based test results, something like that, to better know how the space environment affects human body in prep for the upcoming human excursion to the Moon, Mars and beyond. And so I'm very excited and looking forward to that.
We'll take a question from Elizabeth Howell with Space.com.
The time, this question is for Andreas. Do you have any tips for other astronauts for taking pictures of the auroras from the space station? And also, what are you most looking forward to in terms of imagery?
In terms of advice, practice, 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 because it is tricky to get good photos. But luckily, we have half a year to get good at it. On my first mission, I had 10 days, so it was a little bit tricky to take a lot of good photos. But I'm hoping this time, with 6 months, I'll have more time to spend out in the cupola and to get much better. And I'm looking so much forward to getting back to the space station. It really is an incredible place, and just living and working up there with my colleagues is such a fantastic opportunity. And of course, I'm most looking forward to getting to do a lot of things I didn't get to do on my first trip because it was a shorter trip. I didn't get to see a lot of things on the Earth. I never saw the Himalaya mountains. I never saw what's called the Richat structure in the Saharan desert. I never saw a lot of the other craters that you can see on Earth from space. And so I'm looking forward to seeing that and hopefully taking some good pictures. And then I have a personal project where I'd like to try to recapture some of these blue jets again, and also photograph a few other places, some wild nature areas that are left on Earth.
Our next question is from Mikio with NHK.
Hi, hello everyone. Thank you for taking my question. So my question is for Furukawa-san. I think this is the first time you are in public with other Crew-7 members in this press conference. So can you please talk about what you are feeling now with these members and what kind of role you'd like to play among these members? Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for the question. I'm very happy and proud of being this incredible team. And in a Dragon spacecraft, I'm serving as mission specialist, working with commander and pilot and the other mission specialists to keep the Dragon spacecraft intact. And when it comes to onboard the space station, I'm working as a flight engineer and conducting many scientific experiments and while keeping the space station in good status.
We have a question from social media now from Andrew, who this might be for Crew-7, who wants to know, how do you deal with the long travel to the space station?
Long travel to space station. My first flight to the space station in 2015 took 53 hours, so I think it's going to be hard to beat that. Anything below that, and I'm going to be happy.
We'll switch back to the phone line with Manuel with Exploración Espacial.
Thank you. How are you? You just answered my question a few minutes ago regarding the personal items that you're carrying with you. But now I'm curious how the process works. Are you giving an X amount of weight and you can carry whatever you want, not passing that weight, or is it depending on the amount of items? And if the process is the same when you launch from Russia or with a Soyuz or from the U.S.? Thank you.
I think it's similar for Russia and for United States commercial vehicles. We are allocated some weight, and we have rules of things which we can and which we cannot take. Like there are things which are breakable. We cannot take glass. We cannot take batteries. We cannot take personal electronic devices. And the rest, like if you read the rules, you are pretty sure about what you can, what you cannot. It's similar to what you could take aboard the plane to your hand luggage. And we allocated personal, like one bag. Each of us can fit up to 1.5 kilos of weight, sometimes more. And I think it's similar for Soyuz, isn't it?
Same.
And we had actually to prepare the list of things long in advance. Like mine was ready in April because it had to be checked and sanitized and then checked again and then brought here. So we are talking about something which has already passed and been packed, and we hope to take that out when we come aboard.
Next, we'll go to David Curley with the Discovery Channel.
Very much. Jasmine and Laurel, you're going to be spending a lot of time together on station. You're getting there very different ways, so your training has taken you apart, and you'll be coming back together on station. Have you done anything during training in your separate locations to stay in touch and set a plan for your stay on station?
Yes. So as you probably know, Laurel and I were classmates together. We were selected at the same time, so we're very good friends. And it's been interesting because a lot of times we've been on opposite sides of the world, so it's been difficult to meet up. But more recently, we've spent more time in the same country, and we spent some time in different countries other than the States together during our training. And so we both keep in touch, via text and call, just like everyone else, and also when we are in the same country, trying to spend time together.
Our next question comes from social media for Constantine. It's a bit of a two-part question from Radio Negative Particles. Do you plan on going on Russian spacewalks? And do you know if there will be any joint ESA-Roscosmos spacewalks like the Cristoforetti-Artemyev spacewalk?
Yeah, I know. Thanks for the question. It's a pity that if you are flying this incredible opportunity to fly in an American USCV, you are not able to do a Russian spacewalk because you have to be paired with someone to do that. And since our crews have been changed so many times, unfortunately, I don't have any spacewalks planned. Although I'm completely prepared and I'm ready to be a backup, and if something goes bad, I can rejoin the crew and do a spacewalk. But coming to the second part of the question, no, I don't know if there are. I know that there are no joint spacewalks planned for increment 70.
You could always invite me.
Yeah, we can do that because you are trained, aren't you? Yeah. We could do
We'll
that.
switch back over to the phone bridge with Marcy with the International Women's Air and Space Museum.
Thank you. Yes, my name is Marcy Frumker from the International Women's Air and Space Museum, and my question is for both Jasmine and Laurel. And I want to know, did you receive any tips or advice from any other women space station astronauts to prepare for living aboard the space station for 6 months? Thank you.
We've obviously had a bunch of our friends fly before us, and so along with the other women and also the men, we've gotten a lot of advice on everything from, how to take showers in space to also just, how to take photos in space.
Yeah, I think to second that, I think often the advice, we learn a lot in our classroom environment, but a lot of advice that we're getting from our friends who have flown before us is often around the day-to-day living stuff and things you just don't think about when you're used to working in a 1G environment here on Earth. You don't think about how hard it will be to just do simple things like fold a cloth or wash your hair or go to the bathroom, or the basic just daily things is probably what I've gotten the most advice about.
So getting into the second half of our press conference, I just want to remind everyone, if you have a question on the phone, to press *1 to enter our question queue. And if you've got a question on social media, be sure to use #AskNASA. And of course, here in the room, raise your hand if you've got a question. And I think we do have one.
Oh, thank you. Mark Carreau with Aviation Week and Space Technology. What should the people on planet Earth see in the diversity of the crew that's launching on Crew-7, but also living and working hard on the space station, and the commitment to be there 6 months, possibly more? I just wonder what you and I don't know which person to ask, because anyone would be great. I'm just sort of wondering what you think that message is back to us.
What do you think?
I mean, I could, when I launched on my first mission in 2015. As we were approaching the space station and getting ready to dock, when we were 20, 30, 40 meters away, and I looked out the window, that was the first time I really understood what an incredible machine we have built in low Earth orbit, and what an incredible laboratory and workplace it is. It's really, really impressive to see the International Space Station as you're approaching it. And it just reminded me of what we have achieved together through our international cooperation. And I think if there's something, one lesson that we've learned through the international partnership is how important that cooperation has been and how much we can actually achieve together when we work together.
We have another question here in the room. Go ahead.
Hi, Behnud Mokri. I'm from VOA Persian. Congratulations to all of you guys. My question is for Jasmine. Jasmine, you are a role model for many Iranian women. You are a fighter, someone who follows her dreams. As you know, Iranian women are fighting for freedom, gender discrimination, and justice right now in Iran. I know you follow women life freedom movement closely. What is your message for Iranian women? I appreciate that.
Yes, I've been very lucky in my life to have the opportunities I have had, and while it's taken a lot of hard work to get to where I am, I didn't have certain barriers that unfortunately others, whether it be in Iran or other parts of the world, have had. And I've been really inspired by the fact that the women and men in Iran are fighting not just for themselves, but for those who come after them. And I hope to see a day when the same opportunities I've had are open for anyone else who wants to put in the hard work and effort, and that there are no barriers in place preventing them from doing so.
Our next question comes from social media for Andreas. How did the training for the Soyuz and Dragon differ?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, Soyuz and Dragon are two very, very different spacecraft, principally because one, Soyuz, was developed in the late 60s and early 70s, and Dragon was developed in the last 10 years. And so the concept of operations is very, very different. Soyuz has, in the past at least, relied on ground stations for radio communication, which means that for maybe half of the flight, the astronauts on board Soyuz have to be independent. They have to be able to work independent, which means that any problems that arise during flight, they have to be able to solve on their own. And so it requires an incredibly intricate knowledge of all the systems on board Soyuz. With Dragon, thanks to the TDRS and the ground station network that SpaceX utilizes, we have almost 24-hour radio communication with mission control in Hawthorne, which means that SpaceX has a team of engineers and experts sitting at the consoles ready to support us in case anything happens. And so really, if problems arise, then we always have the expertise of SpaceX available to help us troubleshoot. And so it means that we don't have to be quite as independent as astronauts on Soyuz.
So this question from social media was actually asked twice by Abdullah and B, who want to know what some of the major tasks are that each crew member is going to be completing.
Anyone want to take it?
Laurel, you want to take that one first?
Sure. So we'll be doing all sorts of work on board space station. We have and on any expedition, there's over 250 science experiments going on both inside and outside space station. One of the things that I'm most excited about, because it's also a hobby of mine on the ground, is just fixing things that break. So whether it's the toilet or our galley, we're the onboard technicians that get to fix all those things, working with the engineers on the ground. And so that's one aspect of our work that I'm really excited about.
Did anyone else want to chime in with any tasks, or do we want to move on?
Well, I mean, I would agree with Laurel. My first mission in 2015 was a short 10-day mission, and I was able to concentrate exclusively on science and technology development. This time, because I'm going to be there for half a year, I also have to participate in all the other activities that are required to maintain the space station. So that's maintenance and repair of all the systems. It's logistic work, emptying all the cargo vehicles that arrive, packing them with trash, potentially also working with the space station robotic arm, and perhaps even a spacewalk. So there's a lot of other opportunity, or a lot of other work that I'll hopefully have an opportunity to perform this time.
Thank you, Laurel and Andreas. We have a question here in the room up front.
Hi, everyone. You're going to be on the space station at a really exciting time where you will get to celebrate some holidays. So I would love to hear any plans you have for celebrating or how you'll connect with family and friends back home.
I can say, so in my household, we celebrate both Christmas and Hanukkah. So I've brought some items for both to celebrate with my family. I've got a Christmas ornament with a picture of the four of us together, and also my husband and little girls helped make a felt menorah with lights for each night that I can pin on to celebrate with them. So I'm excited to do that.
I think the biggest celebration for us would be around New Year, like Christmas and New Year. I have a few thoughts I don't want to share with the guys because those are surprises, but I think we'll do some crazy stuff around those days, like 25th of December and 31st of December.
We cannot wait to see it, especially the first sunrise of the Earth on New Year's. That's always so popular to see. Our next question on social media is, what food are you looking forward to eating in Zero-G? And I'll add my own spin for our international partners if you'll be sharing some of your special treats.
I'd say one of the bonuses of having such an international crew is the fact that we have a tradition of bringing food from our home countries. Most of the food is either American or Russian, but when a Japanese, a European, or a Canadian astronaut flies, we have a tradition of bringing some food with us from our home countries. And so I think both Satoshi and I will be bringing some food from our home countries to share with the rest of the crew.
And I will say, I have also, I won't say what, but I have brought some Persian food to share with you all. So excited to share that.
I'm just excited that we have so much food. Like, we have over, we spent, I think, 8 days tasting food all together, both in Russia and here. It's so many dishes. I think there are more than 400 things which you could combine them in any way possible. And that's a unique situation in our crew flights to space, because it hasn't been the case like 50 years ago. And I think that when we go to the moon and beyond and to Mars, we won't have that variety of food. So we are excited that food is what will provide a lot of interesting emotions and feelings. And also, my friends tell me that tastes change in space. So whatever we think we might want now might change a lot during the flight. So it's exciting, just like as a first flyer, everything is exciting, but the food part is also, I'm very curious how it works. And also my personal thing, answering the previous question, I really think that we should share what's happening to you in the flight, and I'm trying to do that as much as possible through like social media and stuff, because like those first days and first weeks and first months of everything, like psychological things, physiological things, like human interaction, how you cannot do stuff and then 1 month later you make fun of what you couldn't do like 1 month ago. That's all very exciting.
Maybe just once in a while we're lucky that there's an overlap between food and science. One of the science experiments we'll be doing is growing tomatoes in space. And if the ground teams, the flight control team, they're really nice, maybe they'll let us eat some of the tomatoes. And so I'm hoping for that at least. That would be nice to get some fresh fruits and vegetables in space.
This has been my favorite question. Thank you for asking that on Twitter. We do have a question up here in the room.
Hi. So, as a team and individually, how have you prepared emotionally and mentally for the challenges of spaceflight?
Good one.
I can do that. For me, it's sports, meditation, and yoga. That's what I do, but I don't think it's very easy to make yoga in 0G. I'm really curious how it works. But at least the breathing techniques and things which I do as my daily practice, I can continue doing. That's one thing. And sports is always what would take your mind off the problem and stress. I think I will be doing running and meditation and breathing techniques. And also that's what all of my colleagues tell me, that we can take photos of the ground, of the earth, both during the daytime and during the nighttime. And that is something which really takes you away in terms of, like, you get distracted, you get into it, you enjoy doing that, and time passes and you get like some variety in your day which can help relieve a lot of stress. And also we have friends and family which, given the current technology development, are one call away. You can always text them, you have emails, you have phone calls, and I'm planning to call my friends and family to talk to them, just to stay there, stay in touch, and share the experience which I'm enjoying.
And along the line, an experiment NASA astronaut told me a tip that says, train as you fly and fly as you train. So that, I think that is very true. So on the day of actual flight, you need to do what you used to do in the training sessions, not something special. So that is a very good tip to get yourself prepared for a flight.
We'll go back to the phone bridge with Robert Perlman from Collect Space.
Hi, thanks. For all five, you'll be on space station either a month or within a week of OSIRIS-REx coming back to Earth and delivering asteroid samples. Has there been any talk about whether you'll have a view from space station of that reentry and any particular training for capturing it on film?
Mm-hmm.
No specific talks of that, and I'm not sure if that's something that will need to be determined as we get closer. But hopefully, if there will be a view, I think the flight control team will certainly prepare us for that, so that we can capture views. But nothing specific yet.
I'm definitely trying to catch Soyuz flight, which is happening on September 15, because when it launches, actually the ISS is very close during the launch phase. It is a short flight. It's a two orbit flights. That means that it will be so close, and I really want to try that.
Awesome. Going back to questions on social media, this time from Jacqueline. Andreas, I think, already answered that question, so I think I'll toss this one to someone else. What is one place on Earth, excluding your home country, that you look forward to viewing from the cupola? It's okay, you can think about it.
Is it to everyone?
To anyone, yeah.
To me, it's Egypt. I really like South Sinai. That's the place where I spent so much time doing freediving. That's where I met my wife. That's where we had so many nice time together. And it's always, like, there are 330 Sundays during the year. So it means that you can take photos almost every day. And there are nice places. I want to take pictures of the Red Sea in that area between, it's called the Aqaba Bay. And also there are interesting mountains in the center of Sinai Peninsula. I just love those places. I know them. It's like a second home to me. And I want to take photos of those places and see how they look from space.
Anyone else want to chime in on that one? What are you looking forward to seeing from the cupola?
Well, tropical islands like
Ooh, okay.
Bahama or Pacific Oceans, really beautiful.
We look forward to the photos. I'll do one last call for questions here in the room. All right, hearing none. Well, to conclude today's press conference, thank you to Crew-7 and Laurel O'Hare for joining us here today. Crew-7's first on deck, launching August 17th at 5:56 a.m. Central Time, 6:56 a.m. Eastern. You can continue to follow their mission as they get ready to go to space, as well as their time on the International Space Station on their social media accounts, as well as at Space Station, as well as our International Space Station blog. We look forward to continuing to get your great questions as they go throughout their mission. Thank you for joining us.